touched the wrong thing there.
Still working anyway.
Yeah. Now you got it all?
You probably tilt down just a tad. The bottom of the screen's cut off. Yeah, about that.
I'll just straighten that section fraction. That all right?
Yep.
Okay. I was looking at this spot here.
Oh, right.
There's a potential saddle down there. It might not be necessary, but you'd have to run out a couple of. And that road might pick up off the wall, actually. Wouldn't pick up on that side. But it would. That road is almost on contour. Look. It is on contour from there.
Yeah.
That means you'd have to drive over the damn wall, but in the amount of moisture you get in, it's probably not that important or doesn't need to be included. But it's a definite saddle. You can see it quite clearly there.
Yep.
So this here might be okay, or it might be a bit of a disconnect. Depends what those gullies look like as you hit them. You're at the top of the dark blue, but you got all this coming towards you.
Yeah.
If it is a disconnect, well, it's a couple of little dams later.
Yep.
So there's a dam and a dam. And potentially it lines up to this dam here.
Yep.
And here, and here. Maybe even up there, but I don't know what that's like. And then we have here, and here, and here, and maybe in there, or you might just scratch through it in there. That's kind of a question mark. This one's a question mark. And then we have a cracker on the dam site there. And maybe one there might be too steep. And then we have one here. Maybe one there. But are they going to want to do that in the forestry?
Yeah. They've made allowances for the dams. They just need to confirm the locations.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we're all trying to drought-proof the property, so it's a win-win for everyone.
And what are you going to want to do around your house?
Well, I've got like septic filled through the front there, so I've got to keep out of that. I could do a few smaller swales around the house. It's just I'm just trying to focus on the big ones at the moment.
Yeah. But these dams, are you going to try and go for these dams? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dams there.
Yep.
There's something in here probably.
Yep.
No, 7, 8 dams.
Yeah. And I'd like on that same line that you've just done, I'd like one further up.
Up here.
Yeah, in that big wet spot there.
It's a good fish dam in there. Probably.
Yeah. And the one to the bottom of that, I'd like to. I want to do a really big dam down there, and that'll be part of like a water feature for the eco village.
Where here, this one.
No, further down.
Yeah.
Yeah, there and the next one down. So 2 big water features there.
That all seems possible. There's lots of little dams you can just dot in right here.
Yeah.
And then you've got enough that, well, all these are dams on the property next door, yeah?
Yeah, next door. Yeah, that's all under trees though, but Yeah, I talked to the owner there, and he's like, "Yeah, I know. We did the ponds years ago."
They were just cattle ponds.
Cattle ponds at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what they look like. Have you walked through and had a look at them?
No, not yet.
They're all under Nightens, are they?
Yeah.
So you'd probably be able to find them because they'd just be like monoculture.
Yeah. I'll just get up there in the quad bike one day because I'm planning to run pigs up there later on once I can lease that from him. But until then.
Because if it was regrowth, you wouldn't be able to find them. And the monoculture, at least you have them free. Okay.
Another one I'd probably like to put is where the house is, that swale above it.
Yeah.
Where there's that, just south of the pen there, in that run area. Yeah, in amongst there, put a nice big dam there because that'll be higher up than the others. Yeah.
That one's pretty high. That's on the same line. If you can get in there.
Yeah, that's on the creek though, so permitting for that will be a challenge.
Oh, yeah. So you need permits for these dams on creeks?
Yeah. Well, I need permits for any dam, but the ones when they're on a watercourse, they're more difficult to get.
Really? I'm surprised Tassie has permitting for any dam.
Mm.
You mean to say every one of those dams got permitted?
Yeah.
Really? How did Tasmania end up with a policy like that?
Don't know, before my time.
I should know that, but like I don't. I mean, Bill was always in Tassie, so it didn't really matter, you know. Okay. The thing is, you've got that many options for dams that if one doesn't work, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you've got another one that's probably going to work. What would be good would be to go through and just have a look at these quickly. Have a quick look and see whether you think they're going to work. I mean, it's no guarantee, but because you never know when you get underground. But by looking at dams in the area seem to be working, to look at each site just in case you need to change the swale line.
Right.
When does your machine arrive that you'll be swaling?
1st of July, and for about 2-3 weeks of June, I'll be going through and starting to peg out the contour lines for the swales.
You've got a laser level?
Got a laser level. I've just ordered 1,000 surveying flags, a box of line marking paint as well. So, yeah, June's pretty much the prep works. And then July and August will be
Have you got
digging.
any bamboo or anything you can use as a peg so the flag sits a bit higher?
No, I don't.
Anything you could use as a peg so that the flag sits a little bit higher? You're talking about little flags, aren't you?
Yeah, they're about 45 centimeters tall.
Yeah. I mean, they'll probably be all right. Sometimes I like at least a few pegs high enough that you can see that bit further, you know?
Yeah.
I'm aiming that way because there will be on this, especially on the lower country, you won't be doing all those humps and bumps. You'll be you'll average it a bit.
Yeah.
The steeper it gets, the more you'll be on contour.
Yeah.
So when you get down the bottoms on the flatter country, you can put your pegs further apart.
Yeah.
The steeper it gets, the closer they've got to be.
Yeah.
And if
Makes
we're putting level sill spillways in, I'll put them at least 0.5 metre apart on the level sill spillway, even less. I mean, just to emphasise that this has to be gun barrel.
Yeah, it's got to be spot on.
And I usually try and cut a level sill spillway from above and not below.
Right.
So I actually had to spend a bit more time, get up above it. So I'm cutting from above and not disturbing the ground that the water's going to go over.
Yep.
I mean, if you've already cleared scrub, there's nothing you can do about that. But if there is like the native vegetation in place, I just leave it there. It's an excuse to sort of whippersnip something that looks a bit like a lawn in the end.
Yeah. Well, as part of our forestry practice plan as well, a lot of those areas where the spillways are going to be, we need to stay out 10 metres either side of those creek lines anyway. So all that vegetation remains in place. That hasn't been cleared at all.
Okay. So you've left 10 metres either side of the creek.
Yeah.
Vegetated.
Yeah.
And that could be transitionally, that could be where the water goes on the level sill spillways.
Correct. Yeah. That's my thinking anyway.
Except for when we get into potential crop country or village country, not always a village, but we might in the lower like farming country, whatever you want to call it, we might start letting go out on ridge lines.
Yep.
So we could have the creek let go. We could have two, in the creek and in the vegetation of the creek and on the ridge.
Right.
And we just sandbag the ridge.
Right.
And then at a certain time, we sandbag the other one, let the ridge go.
Yep.
Because then you're dissipating across that farming country off the ridge. It just spreads out and hydrates that crop area. And, could get us summer crops, like quite interesting summer crop variations. Because you're in great potato country.
Oh yeah.
You're in some of the best.
And garlic as well.
Yeah. All of your alliums, all the onions. Yeah, I mean the richest farmers in Australia are in northwest Tassie. But the largest number of the highest amount, the richest farmers per capita, and the highest cancer per capita.
Yeah, probably all the crop sprays.
That goes worldwide. That works worldwide. Doesn't matter how poor or rich the country is. The richest farmers of the country have the highest cancer per capita. It's funny they don't pay attention to that. Yeah, I mean they helicopter spray the northwest there. I've been there when it's come over. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
A war zone, but beautiful country, like beautiful climate, very mild, great soils. You've stumped me here a bit, so I don't know what to say. That sort of thing's good. I like that.
Yeah, well, that's just above one of those proposed cabin sites. And I sort of figure, well, it's just before it changes to steep. I might as well put one up there. Yeah, and I sort of think that grey water as well from these cabins and tiny houses can drain into the swales.
Absolutely. And fireproof the cabin site.
Yeah.
I mean, mulberries and things like that don't burn. Deciduous trees very rarely burn.
Yep.
But these are that one and that one are plateau edge swales.
Yep.
Which you teach, but you rarely see actually installed, because usually people are down here and they don't get to work up there because it's just so remote. And, down here, but because of your brief, the agenda is concentrated mini tiny house eco village here and remote sites.
Exactly.
We get to play with remote sites. So which ones do you think will sell first? The remote sites or the tiny house eco village?
Well, we'll probably be looking at the remote sites first off. To get some
to install.
Simpler to install, less capital, get a bit of a return on investment there that can go towards the actual concentrated village.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to put that thought in your mind, but that's what I was thinking. It probably is easier.
Yeah, it's the most logical process.
And they're probably easier clientele because they don't want to live with other people anyway.
Yeah, it's part of the beauty of having a remote site. But then they've also got the option that there will be a village close by to them that will later have a co-op shop there as well. So groceries and whatnot will be available on hand if they're not growing their own.
So where is, guide me through the village site.
Yeah, all that corner down there.
That whole corner.
Well, from swale to swale, I'd say. Yeah.
Do we come up this side of the road like that?
Yep. Yeah, up to that swale and then to about that road there. Yeah. And then the industrial area would be to the left of that on that flat plateau area in between those two big creeks.
Here?
Yeah, in between that one and to the one to the right of that. So a little bit further down. Yep, in there. Yeah, that'll be sort of the industrial area. That would do big sheds and workshops and whatnot. Because that's all on stone as well, and big double gate access.
Works out pretty well, doesn't it?
Hmm.
How wet is this in here where these blue lines are?
I suppose on very wet years it could get a bit boggy. That's why I was sort of thinking we could do a nice big large water features through there.
Channel the water through features. Have you studied village homes much?
No, not directly. I mean, other than just researching what other people have done, like in tiny villages over in America and so forth, and in Europe. But
village homes, Davis, California, was designed around swales first. It's iconically old now, but it put the swales in first, and then the roads are on the ridges between the swales.
Yeah.
And the back gardens of everybody's so when you drive down the road, all you're looking at is people's carports, because the carports come onto the road.
Right.
And they're all dead ends because they're on ridge lines between swales. So all you're looking at is people's carports. Nobody has a garden that fronts the road.
Okay.
So probably do a carport and go through a door into their garden, which is very small, and then their house, and then their back garden goes all the way down to a swale park, and you can't really see where their land finishes and where it merges with the park. It sort of melts together. So gardens are coming in from the other side of the swale and from this side of the swale, becoming a park, and the swale lines are the parks in the village, and the higher ground between the swales is the road.
Right.
And David Corbett, who designed it like nearly 50 years ago now, almost predates permaculture. That's how he did it. He laid out where the swales will fit first and where the roads fit in between the swales, and then put the blocks in.
Yep.
And I filmed it. I did a Food Forest Suburb video called Food Forest Suburb. It was almost like a pilgrimage to go there and see it. So it was 40 years old or 42 years old when I saw it. And the fruit trees were 42 years old.
Wow. Fully established.
There was figs that were nearly like a meter in diameter. And they were just, their ground was covered in figs, There was plums that were like, large, and that some people hadn't really occupied as well as they could, and the houses were kind of energy efficient, but not what they are today. And didn't do the grey water or black water, which they could do today, etc., because of its time. But the fruit was ridiculously in surplus, and people weren't harvesting enough. I had to stop every hour to scrape fruit off my shoes. I was clogging up with fruit. My shoes were getting heavy with fruit stuck to them. Yep. But the fruit that I was eating was some of the best tasting fruit I've ever eaten in my life. And I think it was the recharge on the swales off the suburb was making the roots chase the deep
The
mineral.
water.
They
Yeah.
were going with the water, and they were getting every compliment they could. I mean, there was fruit that you just wanted to, oh, no, I just want another one, you know. And I'm on film, and quite often I'm tasting fruit that doesn't taste great, but I smile. But this was genuine. I actually wanted to eat more. It was like, wow, this stuff's awesome. And it was about, I'm pretty sure that that's all I could see, only thing I could see. That it was chasing the water, and with the water it was getting the minerals, you know, it was getting deeper. So cutting this through our contour lines here might be, you know, because it's generally flat, but they're kind of curving like that, aren't they? So if you just compromise the bends, which you would do in this scenario, we'd have to dive in deeper to see the next one. It's pretty much there, the next one. That's pretty flat in there. But something to consider in the finer details later is that we don't have to go 100% on contour when you're getting that kind of flat and you're involved in that kind of hardware and infrastructure, because all hell's going to change anyway, you know?
Yeah.
And although we're only doing tiny homes, it's going to change. And the town planners are going to be chasing us like crazy once you get this one on the ground. Because this is what people are not doing enough of.
My thoughts exactly.
They're not putting the infrastructure in first. The partnership with Font Hill actually helps extend the potential. But in the meantime, like a little bit more appropriate farm forestry is a funding asset. So, you know, from the evil to the good, back to the settlement is a good story. Keep taking photos. Whatever you do, take 1 million photos.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And video. And I've got the drone up every week as well to document the progress. Yeah.
Because we can't get it once it's gone.
Exactly. It's so hard to show the before.
And the before sells it as much as the present and the future, which hasn't happened when people are investing or buying. So, and the village might extend into here possibly as well, eh?
Probably not, because that's technically a priority habitat. That's zone priority habitat. Essentially, it's a conservation area.
In that little green there.
Yeah, on the other side of that road there, down into that gully.
Why are there circles on these roads like that?
They were old forestry clearing tracks. So wherever they were loading the trucks, like a bit of a turnaround circle for trucks and whatnot.
So if you're flying into Tassie, where do you go to get to your place?
So you'd fly into Launceston,
Right.
and we're about an hour and a half from Launceston.
Going east.
East, yeah, towards the coast. Through Fingal Valley.
How far are you from Bridport?
About 2.5 hours.
Oh, a long way. Like Bridport's right in the northeast corner, yeah?
Yeah, it's more north central, yeah. North central, northwest a little bit, yeah.
How far are you from the east coast?
30, 40 minutes.
Very closer to the east coast than anywhere.
Yeah, up on those high elevations, we can actually see the East Coast Ocean.
And what town on the east coast are you closest to?
Well, main town would be St. Helens.
Okay.
And then St. Mary's in between.
All right, they're nice places. Okay. And so farming country in here, in future, is what, in between these swales like this?
Yeah, we think that'll be sort of market gardens, cropping areas.
giving the swale a buffer for trees.
Yep.
That kind of zone.
Yep.
And then again.
Yeah,
here,
up there it'll only go to where that ridge is, where it starts going yellow and orange, because above that will be silver pasture. Part of the carpet planting. Yeah, spot on.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then we've got is the bottom land too wet? Is it all right?
No, that's okay. It's so that'll be good to do market gardens and whatnot in there as well.
And it's almost separated by this creek from the industrial area.
Yep. One of the crops we're thinking about doing, because we've finally got our industrial hemp license, is to plant out some industrial hemp.
Right, what's the fencing requirements? Is it okay?
All that area is all fenced, so we already meet those requirements.
It's up to the standard they expect?
Well, they came out to inspect, and it exceeds their requirements because we got 1.8 metre high deer exclusion fencing all through there with barbed wire and whatnot on top as well, and electrics. So yeah, we meet the requirements for that.
There's our initial farmland.
Yep.
And in between, you'll probably have fencing, tree planting.
Yep.
And tree planting to give it shelter.
Yeah, on that on the left there, I want to do like a 15-20 metre wide shelter belt along that road. So it'll help block a lot of the southerly cold winds.
This one?
Oh, no, the up above that. Yeah, there. Yeah.
There. And you'd extend that around Banbury?
Well, all above that, that'll be part of the silver pasture side of things anyway, so that'll all be sheltered anyway. Yeah, it's all silver
pasture. And this is silver pasture?
All silver pasture, yeah.
All the way through there?
Yep.
And then, well, obviously.
Up there.
What is this next to your house and below?
That'll all be silver pasture as well.
Right. And in here?
And just in there as well, along that ridge.
So that crosses the swale anyway. And in here, this would be
probably more market gardens, cropping, yeah, anything like that.
How steep is this valley here?
Sorry, you broke up there.
How steep is it in here to this blue line, dark blue line?
Pretty flat.
Pretty flat. Okay. Just trying to get an overall picture of everything. Might be more intense for smaller gardens for the village.
Yeah, closer to the village. Yeah.
That more or less locks off Pig Creek Farm, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing we can put in now is like wilderness belt, wildlife, zone 5.
Yep.
Which is probably going to be the creek itself, isn't it?
Mainly the creek itself, yeah. Well, we want to keep livestock and whatnot off the creek anyway.
Well, it comes right next to your house, but it's a bit rough, this plan, but anyway, just so you get a concept of like, because it's a complex landscape to look at. And then everything else is, what do we call this? Like, it's long-term forestry.
Yes. Forestry. So it'd be mixed forestry. So in those greener areas, that will be more on the bottom. It'll be more silver pasture and so forth. That's south of Fonthill Road.
Right, so all of this.
Oh, that section there, that's under tree. That's forest. Yeah, in there and around to the right, and then above that on those orange red areas, I wanted to do that as a food forest.
Yeah.
Bit to the left and above. Yeah, and then those greenish areas, they'll be more remote sites.
Remote sites. So this is silver pasture.
Or
here.
silver pasture, yeah. And we can put a couple of remote sites in amongst silver pasture as well, wherever it makes the most sense.
And Fonthill are okay with all that?
Yep. Subject to the design, of course, and subject to council approval.
So what do we call this steeper area?
Well, that's what I call Fonthill because it's like its own little hill there. So
that's just forestry.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be silver pasturing on the steep stuff, would you?
No. So that reddish area on that hill, I'd probably do, again, more part of food forest production. So nuts, fruits, etc. And that'll be interplanted in between the native plantings. Because the native plantings, they're planted out in 6 metre spaces between each other. So there's enough sufficient room in between the native species to also plant fruit trees and nut trees and so forth.
What's the difference between native planting and what Fonthill mixed timber is going to do?
So the native planting, it's a requirement for the carbon capture project that it has to use local native species. So we've got like white gum, peppermint gum. They're more the taller species, but then more understory species as well, like Leptospermum, prickly box, Banksia honeysuckle, which don't grow that high. They only go about 3-4 meters high. So there's sufficient space in between them to put fruit trees as well. So it's a sort of like a multi-cropping sort of setup.
Leatherwood, you grow leatherwood?
We probably could, but they take about 2.5 years to propagate. So we could put some in later on, but it wouldn't be part of the initial project. Just don't have the time for it.
Yeah. So you have the mixed timber, and then separate to that, you have native planting.
Yeah, and fruit trees and nut trees as well.
Let me just sorry, I need to get this clear.
Yeah, so there's about 3 tree species, like tall tree species, about 5 understory species. So that's what we consider the natives, and each of them will plant it out in 6 metre spacings as a grid pattern. That's a requirement of the carbon project.
Hold on, we got silver pasture.
Yes.
Then we got mixed forestry. Is that right?
Yeah, which will be the same planting as the silver pasture, but with additional fruit and nut trees. That's more on the reddish areas.
With what we call it, productive fruit?
Yeah.
Nut.
Fruit, nut, yep.
And then we have native planting. Is that separate?
Well, the silver pasture and the mixed forest would have the natives anyway as part of the carbon project.
There's only 2 types of forest then?
Yes. Yeah, food forest and silver pasture.
Mixed forestry and silver pasture. And silver pasture won't have the fruit and nut in it?
It might. I'm thinking other species like tree lucerne and things like that. So as a fodder species for livestock.
Yeah, because we got the silver pasture means livestock.
Yep. And fodder tree species.
So silver pasture stroke fodder.
Yep.
Mixed forestry with fruit and nut.
Yep.
I may as well say silver pasture with fodder.
Yep.
All right. Just so when we colour the map, we've got 2 areas.
Mm.
How big an area do you think we can put around those swales in trees?
What do you mean? How big?
Oh, when we got our swale, and that's our swale profile.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably going to have trees on the upside,
Mm-hmm.
and then trees on the swale,
On the berm, yep.
and then you're going to have trees below, and we could extend that down more
Yeah.
or less.
So think of from the berm.
We're talking 2 meters in here.
2 meters in there, yep.
You probably, like, this is probably a bit extended here, but by the time we get from here to here, we're probably talking 5 or 6 meters.
Yep.
And
then 6 meters every interval down.
6 meters down.
Yep. Will be a row of trees. So every 6 meters will be a row of trees.
But that's your silver pasture or your mixed forestry.
Correct.
But do you intend to do a different planting along the swales?
No, it'll be the same mixed native species, and we can come back in later on to add food-bearing species.
Yeah, I just want you to make sure you do include some fireproof in there, which probably can be included, okay?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Just have a look at that a second.
No, that's right.
Yep. We're scribbling over this whole thing. That's all we've been working on. So the rest of it must be steep or gully or something.
Yeah. Steep, either really steep or already under native trees, or in the gullies.
I don't see anything wrong with your swales, right?
Sorry?
I can't see anything wrong with your swales.
Oh, well, that's good.
Apart from the fact that, when we get to cross gullies, we're going to have to make decisions as we hit them.
Yeah.
Right? What we are going to have to do is define these areas. Like, what is that? Is it pasture with fodder or is it mixed forestry?
Mm-hmm.
We have to clearly define this stuff. It's forestry into its 2 types.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to clearly define, like, it may as well happen now.
Yep.
Where the boundary is on this farming system, and this, well, if we call it farming, but intense village garden is probably what they need there, and the village and the industrial, like what we've outlined in area now. We need to look at it and go, you seem to know the property well enough, you're living there and you're getting ready for this earthworks. which just dissects this whole thing.
Mm.
So, you know, on top of what we just did, we need, you know, farming zones,
Mm-hmm.
village zone. We need industrial zone. We need village garden, if we're going to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
And we need wildlife.
Yep, the priority habitat
Yeah,
and corridors.
which is like we have to have, because what we have to do is impress people with this map.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so, oh, we thought about all this, and then present forest.
Mm.
And would you say there's present regrowth, or areas that are not really forestry, but then they're habitat already, or?
Yeah, there's 2 priority habitat areas. There is some existing plantation forest areas, which will be effectively will be going to firewood production, and then later replant with better species for firewood and timber production. So we actually have an agroforestry, you know, enterprise going on.
Existing plantation forestry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we've got the native areas, which will be, we pretty much want to keep a lot of the native areas intact as native, maybe cut some walking tracks through it later on, but yeah.
Well, we'll get to the refinements of, you know, in here, you know, like water access structures in the farming area, in the village, in the village garden, in the industry, in all of it, like almost all of it. We won't be going into existing native areas within it, but tracks, but it is something.
Yep.
So we're just going to have to eat this elephant one bite at a time.
Yep.
Because it's big. It's really big. And if we can't get distracted with details, we're gonna die before we finish eating it. You know. Like,
Exactly.
But this is good. Like that's incredibly good progress to do that so quickly. But I didn't have to change any of the swales. I mean, they all look like pretty good. You know, they're all in good position. Did you actually measure the length of
it? All up there's about 18 to 20 kilometers with the swales.
Let's call it 20. 20,000 minutes.
Yep, 2 months worth of work.
How long you got?
2 months. 2 months. 2 months of actual digging, and that's why I'm like, oh, next month, being June, I've got to put, you know, at least 3 weeks in to do the laser leveling and marking out the actual swales. So that way I can just hit the ground running once we've got the excavator on site.
So if you slip a track and lose a day, you're okay?
Yeah. So I don't want to lose too many days, but I've allowed a little bit of a buffer in there.
Look, there's swales we could drop out if we have to.
Yeah. Like the ones in the flats, I can come back in later on. I really wanted to focus on the ones on the slopes first because they're going to be the most challenging. And if I run out of time, the flat areas can be done at a later date. But at least it's planned and we've made allowances for.
At the right soil moisture, you could probably grade the bottom tracks with a grader.
Yeah, with a grader, yeah.
Because they're fast. If there's no rock in the way, they're fast.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we need to do now.
Right.
We don't muck about. Let's get it done. And we go quick as you book. We go again.
Cool.
And like saving this, but like refining this means that as we go, you have to save everything for me, right? As we save the 12, now we go into the next one. We'll save this when we get it, and we'll correct it. We'll save it as quick as we save it. it starts to go, when we're ready, straight into digital.
Yep.
And we produce a map that really impresses people.
Yeah, because I want to make sure that we allow for farm tracks and all that as well, so we can access these remote sites. And
oh yeah, I mean, we've got a few layers to go.
Yeah.
Because you have access of just so much access, and that's probably going to have to be a map by itself. Like we'll all come together as one map.
Yeah, multiple overlays.
Yeah, and then we go this.
Yep.
Which normally I don't allow for that much digital, but let's see how we go. Our digital team are pretty good, and most of them are up workers anyway. So it's not a big loss to me if we have more maps than normal.
Yep.
But I can see that we're not going to get through this in as quickly as normal. We'll work it out as we go. That's all I say. We'll work it out as we go. There's going to be a point where I'm going to have to say, William, I've got to pull up on the fee we've charged now. Can't go into every single block in the village, you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, the individual village, that'll be a future project anyway. I want to get more of the overall encompassing design focused on first, and then we can go
you need approval. You need design to approval, not to detail.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm hearing what you're saying. I love it. I love the project. It's great. It's a great job. Because often I'm dealing with people who don't know what I'm talking about, and I have to keep explaining what I'm talking about and why it's important to talk about it. But you understand what we're talking about, and we're going. It seems like I'm grabbing what you're saying. We're going to approval.
Yes.
Right? So once we have like concept approval, it's another world. Because we are given permission to do it. We just got to provide. Then you've got to provide then the maps.
Yeah, and that way,
it's
someone who doesn't understand permaculture principles, they can see the map and get a fair understanding of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Let's do this before we do access, even main access, because main access is actually already on the map.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't think you're going to change those access areas anyway. They're going to stay pretty much main access.
Well, Fonthill Road, that's fixed. Everything else is flexible.
Yeah, but you don't want cost that you don't need.
Yeah.
Access can be expensive, you know, can be ridiculous, but you've got quarries and you've got stuff near you. But let's not cost what we don't have to cost.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, mate. You do that. Right. And book in again.
No worries. I'll mark up the zones on my little map, and once I've done that, I'll be in touch with Darren to book in another time.
Yeah, mate. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Fantastic. Thanks, Geoff.
All right. Talk soon.
Catch ya.
Cheers.